Good morning, grade 12s. This is your CAT lesson. We are going to focus on theory today. It is the 19th of May, and the section we're going to work through today is Module 1.5, System Software and Computer Management. This will be a two-part series, so we will get through the first part, and tomorrow we will continue with the second part. Okay, let's go into our PowerPoint. So as I said, the section that we're going to focus on today is System Software and Computer Management. As end users, we spend most of our time using application software. It is, however, important to realize and understand the crucial role that system software plays in the management and maintenance of the computer. System software is a software that is intended to control, support, or operate a computer. So this would include your operating system, for example, Windows, Linux, your OS X, also your utility software. Now this is your antivirus, your defrag, disk check, those type of software that you would use to maintain your system. Okay, so the first one we are going to look at is operating systems. The operating system is a system software that controls all activities that take place in a computer. It sometimes is referred to as the software platform, as it controls and supports all the other software and hardware on your computer. When a computer is switched on, the operating system must first be loaded to control all the different activities. So your Windows operating system first needs to load before you can use, for example, Microsoft Office. So let us take a look what actually happens when I switch my computer on. Let me just see what is happening here. Sorry, escape. Just going to convert to the other PowerPoint. There we go. So what actually happens here is there are a variety of things. So the computer is first going to go and look for instructions in the ROM. Okay, so computers only follow instructions. So when they're switched on, for the first thing they do is they look for these instructions to follow. These instructions are stored on a special memory chip called the ROM. As you know by now, ROM stands for read-only memory. That keeps the contents even when the computer is switched off. When you switch on the computer, these instructions, so it will do a basic test. So it will perform basic hardware tests to ensure everything is working correctly. It's a post-test. Then it's try to find and load the operating system from the disk drive it has been told to check. So now, once it's done the basic test, for example, is the hard drive working? Is there enough memory? It does a basic check through the system. It's instant. You won't even realize it is happening. Okay. Then once it's done that, it's going to go and find the operating system and load that for us. Once the operating system has been found, it is loaded into memory, and the control of the computer is then handed over to this operating system. So once it knows that whether it is Linux, Windows, or an OS X system, it will then hand over the controls to that specific system. This process of loading the operating system is called booting. So booting, just so you know, is a typical exam question that you need to be able to explain. So booting is the process of loading the operating system once the computer has done a post check Okay, the next part we're going to look at is the actual role, otherwise known as the function of the operating system. So this would be approximately a 4-mark question. Once the operating system is loaded, the user can interact with the computer. The functions of the operating system as follows. The first part, it is going to provide the user interface, so the image that the user is going to work with. Operating systems allow us to interact with the computer via graphical user interface, otherwise known as a GUI. This interface is graphically presented by using small pictures called icons and other visual aids such as menus and buttons. The next role is to manage programs. Just so that you know, this is a level 1 question in grade 12. So it's a lot of information, yet you've been taught this since grade 10. So it is considered a level 1 and everyone is expected to know this section. The operating system allows the user to choose and run software by loading programs into the memory and coordinating the process of these programs with the CPU. It manages which programs and tasks can be used by the CPU and for how long. This is your multi-threading, your multitasking. So multitasking is the ability of the operating system to load and process multiple tasks at the same time. So for example, I'm working on my pad. I need to open a Word document and there are multiple tasks inside Word. So for example, it does a spell checker, I can insert images, I can create bold, I can change all sorts of things. Every operating system runs several tasks or processes at the same time. These processes or tasks include the operating system itself, as well as the programs that are running. For example, if you're busy with an essay while listening to music on Spotify, all of this can occur at the same time. A multitasking operating system ensures that each process or task is allocated resources such as memory and CPU time. Now, the reason for this is that your computer, like your brain, needs to be able to process. And if I've got hundreds of instructions coming at the same time, I need to sort out what is the most important and what will need more time than something else. The next part or function of an operating system is managing hardware. So there are 3 parts to this: disk management, memory management, and input and output management. Okay, so please, when I ask you the functions of the operating system, please don't specify all 3 of these. This is considered under managing hardware. So disk management, if I then say to you, discuss disk management, then you need to discuss these 3 points. So disk management, the operating system manages how the data is stored, is organized on the storage device, and how and when the programs access the storage device. The operating system saves us from having to know how to physically load and save files on different types of disks. All we have to do is click on save and the operating system is going to do the rest. So that is your disk management. It decides what gets saved and where it must be saved. You don't have to go and say where specifically unless you want to say where it must be. The next one, memory management. The operating system controls how programs use the memory. This is your RAM. Therefore, it ensures that different programs don't try to use the same area of memory at the same time and so corrupt each other's data or instructions. So a specific part of the RAM or memory is allocated to different tasks. The last one, your input and output management. The operating system manages the input and output of the computer and how programs use the input and output devices. Therefore, which programs receive input from input devices and which programs can use an output device at any time. The last section of the functions, is the providing basic security. The operating system provides basic security functions such as user access control. So when you if you go into the computer lab, you log in, and you won't be able to access all the files from each computer. You can only access the files on that specific computer. It can also provide basic protection against threats to our computers, but these are often best handled by our utility programs, that is the system software. We will discuss these sections at a later date. Okay, now the task manager. This should be one of your biggest friends in the computer, because it tells you exactly which programs are running. So these are the basic software. And then what is running in the background that you do not necessarily need to, that you're not aware that you're busy using, like CCleaner or your antivirus. There could be an Adobe running in the background. Okay, what you can see here is exactly how much memory and how much RAM is being used. So from my CPU, 11%, and each one is allocated. I can discuss or see the memory, how much of my disk is currently being used by these programs. As you can see here by Google Chrome, just interesting information on that. Google Chrome opens each tab as a separate browser, which means it is going to use a lot more memory than, say, for example, Firefox, Edge, or Safari. So it's a very nice program to use, but please be aware that it does use a lot of memory, and it can slow your computer down. So the task manager in Windows operating system can be accessed by, I can right click on the bar at the bottom, or I can press Alt Control Delete and there select the task manager. The task manager provides some information about the computer's performance and the applications and processes that are running. Okay, so here we've got the Alt Control Delete and the taskbar. It provides the information on which systems are running. And very nice option here is, say for example, my word is hanging. So I've got this little blue circle that's turning, my screen's gone white and I can't do anything. By simply pressing Alt Control Delete, my task manager will open up. I can select Microsoft Word and click at the bottom here. The End Task button will be highlighted, and then I can cause a forced shutdown of that software. Okay, the next one we're going to look at is single user versus multiple users in operating systems. Most operating systems include the Windows series of operating systems, allow more than one person to log onto a computer using different usernames or accounts. So for example, you can at school log into Learner29, or you can log into the exam folder or into the L drive at the same time. It is in fact recommended that you have one account that is purely for administrative purposes. So the administrator account will be the one that allows you to install software, make changes, and so forth, where a standard user will not be allowed to do or make those changes. Okay, so let's see here. Sorry, my screen's hanging a bit here. So the first one we're going to look at is our single user. So a single user can only be used by a single user at one time, where a multi-user allows multiple users to access the computer system at the same time. So single users, the normal Windows operating system that comes installed on your computer, allows you to switch between users and still remain logged in. So if you're at home and you've got one computer for the whole family, you could create an account for each family member. And you wouldn't have to switch off and switch on. All you would do is log out and log in again. The reality is that only one user can use the computer at one time with a single user operating system. Then with a multi-user, sorry, let me go back. This refers to an operating system designed to have multiple users accessing the same computer at any time. These types of operating systems are usually installed on servers, and it is used in a network where multiple users will need to be able to access that operating system. So, for example, the whole class downloading a file shared by your teacher on a computer. Think of the L drive. When I place an activity on the L drive for you, everyone can access the file from the L drive and then copy it onto their computer or their folder on the server and work on that activity. An example of a multi-user operating system includes Linux and various server editions of Windows. Okay, the next part we're going to look at is the operating system utilities. Now, without you realizing, there are a number of software systems or utilities available to you that you might not have tried. So, character map, you actually have seen that since grade 10 in Microsoft Word. That is the symbols. When you insert different symbols, you could actually see the entire character map by going to System Tools. Then My Computer, if you open it in Explorer. Control Panel, that is where you would now add or remove or modify some of the software that you have. A disk cleanup goes and checks all the files throughout your disk and checks if there are any files that can be removed or deleted, like temporary files. Your disk defrag. Now, the disk defrag is something since Windows, the latest from your Windows 10 computers actually occur by itself, that you don't have to run it. With the older computers, once a month you were required to go and run a disk defrag so that you could put all similar files together. I have explained to you how a disk defrag works. Then the good old-fashioned Internet Explorer, you might not have known it, it's still installed on all PCs. And here are different resource monitors. If we go back to the task manager, let me just find our task manager. Okay, there I can actually, there's an additional button here where I can see additional resources, and I'll be able to open up the resource monitor. And what that will do is it will open up the CPU and show me specifically each core how much processing is happening. I can also see on the hard drive exactly how much processing is happening. System information, something I had shown you at the end of term 1. If you wanted to know exactly what information is stored on so what is your operating system, how much RAM, how much ROM, the speed, everything you can actually find in system information. So this is System Tools is something that you could go and take a look at and just get to know your computer a bit better. Okay, the next part we're going to focus on is file management. All operating systems provide us with the filing system and tools for managing our files, such as Windows Explorer in Windows. Okay, so in your PAT, one of the things that you're required to do is a folder structure where you place, you're going to create 3 folders for phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and inside each phase, you're going to have specific files and documents. So the first part we're going to look at is naming files. Okay, so the file names, you can decide what the file name is. Just be aware that it must make sense. Try not to get into the habit of just saving your document as is document 1, document 3, document 10. Then the file extension could be .doc, .docx, .exe if it's an application. So the file names in Windows operating system consist of 2 parts, our file name and the extension. Very important, be careful of putting a full stop in too many places, because then it starts to see that the part after the full stop is seen as an extension. Then, file extensions and file types. We have been discussing this since grade 10. It identifies the file type or format that is automatically added when you save your file. It's also going to tell you what type of software I need to open that specific document or file. So an EXE, as I've just said, is an application file. A .doc or docx would open a word processing document. XLS or SLSX would open a spreadsheet, and ACCB or ACCDB is going to be an access database. The last part, some question that they love asking for you is the path. So you need to know the specific path. So where exactly is the file stored on your computer? Okay, the next part we're going to look at is information about files. So the first part is our file property. Now the place you would be able to see your file property, if you went into Word and you clicked on File Info, you would get the basic information. So who's the author, the name of the document, when was it modified. Then our file attributes, property of file that can be set. So I can send you a file and set it to read only. So you would be able to read it, but you cannot edit it. I can also set certain files to hidden. So if you go into your C drive and you go and look under program files, you will see that there are files, but they are almost blanked out, or you won't be able to see them. These are hidden files, that they do that specifically to ensure that you don't go and change any of those settings. Then metadata, as I explained in the first part here, if you went to file info, you would be able to get all the additional information about your file. So the metadata is additional data stored about a file that describes the contents of the file, such as the author and the title. Okay, this is all on page 72 and 73 in your Study Opportunities textbook. The next one we're going to focus on is File Manager functions. So I can search, compress, and decompress. So searching file managers such as File Explorer allow you to search for a file based on any number of criteria. I can search for a file size. I can see for a certain type of file. I can even enter partial. I can't remember exactly what the file was called. So I will say, for example, I know it was system software. So I'm in my search bar. I'm going to type in system software, and all files containing that name will appear. I can even go and look at the data accessed and even actual text inside the document, which is great. The search function is extremely powerful in your File Explorer. The next one, compressing. This is the process of reducing the size of the file. So I want to send to you all of the CAT PowerPoints, but it is going to be too big to send over email. So what I will do is I will right click and I'm going to compress it using either WinRAR, 7-zip, any compression software that you can find. What it does, it reduces, it presses all the work together and makes the file smaller. We also call this zipping. On the other end, when you get to your site, you want to be able to view it. You won't be able to just view, you will just see a .zip. You are going to decompress it or unzip the file. And what it does, it packs it out again as if you got a gift and there were lots of things inside a box, and you go and pack out everything to go and see what it looks like. So that is called decompressing or unzipping, and it will place it back into its original size. The next one we're going to look at is converting files from one format to another format. Okay, so this is important when I want to export and import. Now, as I've told you before, you need to work smarter, not harder. So in your PAT, the second part, you had to create and take your questionnaire and import or capture all the data into an Excel spreadsheet. The third part was then you had to add it into an Access database, but you don't want to have to go and retype everything from your Excel again into Access. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to import that data from my Excel spreadsheet into Access. So let's first take a look at exporting. Saving data on a format that can be read by different versions of the same application. So all Microsoft software are able to read each other. So whether it's Word, Excel, Access, PowerPoint, OneNote, I can export data into each of these using export or the save as function. Then on the other side, if I'm importing, I'm going to import. That means pulling in data from a different software and adding it to my new application. Okay. The next part we're going to look at is scheduling. So scheduling is when I want a certain thing to happen at a specific time. So I want certain programs. So for example, on a Friday, I would like my computer to run a backup of all my files that I've created during the week. And I can create a schedule for that. So scheduling is a program that is used to run certain programs at specific times. It will automatically check for updates. Okay, so it's going to compare your old files with your new files to check if there is a difference. Now let us take a look at why this would be useful. Okay, scheduling automatically checks for updates, so we don't forget to check for updates for critical applications such as our antivirus software. So the antivirus software will check if there are any, it will update by itself. We've put a little program in, a macro or installed software, and it's going to check for the latest updates, and it's not going to keep adding. If you've now copied the same type of file, then you will see it will place a 1 if there's already original in the same file. Second part is schedulers can be set to automatically perform certain routine housekeeping tasks such as a defrag. Also, so we don't have to remember this for ourselves. So once a month you can set a defrag and it will do it by itself. You leave your computer and the system will start up. The next one, schedulers can be set to run in off-peak times. Now you don't want a backup or a full computer scan to run at the time that you're trying to write your exams or that you're busy working on your PAT. You rather want it to happen at nighttime when it's not going to interfere with the processing of the rest of your computer. Okay, a tip, save time and internet cap when you need to update several computers in a network. So unfortunately, Windows 10 kind of forces us to update. Even if you switch updates off, it will override that and still update the system. But what we used to do is you would wait till the end of the month and see how much data you had left. And if you had enough data, you would run the latest updates on your computer. But as I say, Windows 10 has overridden that function. It is often a good idea to download the files needed to update your software to a central location. So in our computer lab, we have a lot of computers. So if I were to install those updates on every single computer, the data and the time used to do that would be unnecessary. It's a lot of time and data that's being used. So instead, I say I will download all my updates onto the server, and from the server, I send the updates through to each computer. so that it downloads only once instead of multiple times. Okay, that is up to where we will get today. I will do part 2 tomorrow, and I would like you to please summarize this section in your books, or you can summarize it electronically. Please do not just take the PowerPoint as is. Go and add additional notes. You can also go and find additional information from the Via Africa study guide and from the DBE textbook. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you all have a good day. Bye-bye.